Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm the kind of guy to have every iota of 21 Pilots news right next to Brad tasting music on my feed, so you might know how this is going to go. If you don't know Brad, he's a pretty popular music reviewer who does reactions to a lot of 21 Pilots, even though it looks like it physically pains him. I love the guy and his content, and this isn't a video attacking him or anything. I just wanted to address a bit of a misconception some people seem to have about this car radio song. I almost didn't feel like there was enough here to make an entire video defending the one song Brad hated on Vessel, his favorite 21 Pilot.
Vessel was fantastic.
Artists use a variety of tools to convey meaning through their work, and help you to understand that meaning. Some of these tools differ from medium to medium, but some are universal, built upon the fundamental ways we all come to understanding. I'm talking, of course, about metaphor, when one thing is represented as another so that whatever happens to one is indicative of the other. Writers use metaphors all the time, in essays as well as storytelling, like when Guru Patik explains that the energy flowing throughout his body is like water flowing through pools and being blocked. If I'm telling a story where light represents hope in some way and someone turns on a light, you know that that person is probably going to bring some sort of hope. Stories and works of art themselves can be metaphors, and often are. The superpowers in Incredibles, for instance, are representative of stereotypical familial roles, and some stories take an even more direct approach.
Get out of here, roundies! Shouted one of the squares. Why? Said one of the circles. Because this is a metaphor for racism!
21 Pilots are artists, writers, if not of books. They've been lyrical masters of metaphor since their debut with songs like March to the Sea, which I talk about here, and continue to be with their newest stuff like Jumpsuit and Nico and the Niners. In fact, their entire new album looks like it's going to be one big metaphor with a bunch of smaller metaphors packed into it. But we're not talking about that album, we're talking about Vessel, which is still littered with metaphors. I hope. Migraine in particular points it out pretty explicitly, with the headache being a war between Tyler and his inner thoughts, which are referred to as lions. This same concept is revisited in Car Radio, but through a different context. The conflict is still going on, but now instead of lions and an island, it's just Tyler in a car? Why the change? Well, let's look at the metaphor. In Car Radio, it seems Tyler once had the radio as an ally in his conflict, being able to distract him enough that he couldn't hear those thoughts. And now that it's gone, he actually has to deal with them. The song is powerful in its construction, starting calm and contemplative before exploding into intensity. It just hits you and the metaphor clicks. Here's the thing, it's not exactly a metaphor. Tyler actually had his car radio stolen and wrote the song after the experience, leading some people to say the song had no depth.
It wasn't a metaphor, and it actually has no depth to it. Seriously? There's no depth to this song? Oh my god.
Which is just not right. I don't want to seem like the 21 Pilots apologist here. There are people who make giant stretches to try and make 21 Pilots sound deeper than they are. But I also don't want people to disregard an entire literary device distinct from metaphor, microcosm. A microcosm is showing that something is true on the small scale so that we can understand how it works on the large scale. Having a pet die, for instance, isn't a metaphor to teach you about loss and death when you're young, it's actual loss and death. It's probably on a smaller scale than if you lost a person you were very close to, so you can understand and prepare yourself better, but it isn't an entirely different thing. It can also work with characters and stories. If you had someone with a coloring book who always colored outside the lines, and then they're later caught trespassing, that's not, oh, the lines on the paper were a metaphor for the lines in real life. Oh my god! No, it's literally, the character has a tendency not to care for rules and boundaries. Here's how it presents itself on the small scale, and here's how it presents itself on the larger scale. Get it? It's not like light and hope, because light is driven by electricity, whereas hope is driven by not electricity. So when Tyler makes a song about how the constant presence of media distracts him from his inner thoughts so much that he now relies on it and feels naked without it, he shows it in the small scale first, with a very relatable and immediately understandable scene, a guy driving without the radio. I think that, though he says the same lines, throughout the most intense part of the song, he's not just talking about the radio anymore. There, he's talking about the entire scale, the entire concept that's represented here. Represented not by a metaphor, but a microcosm. And with a microcosm, what does it matter if it actually happened or not? I'd even hazard to say that it makes the song even more deep, because the microcosm he uses so we understand the meaning is probably the same one he used. Once he was stripped of that car radio, it's possible that Tyler realized how much not only the radio, but all of media was distracting him from his demons, and how much he relied on that. Then he wrote the song so that we could understand, and I don't think that's very shallow. Anyways, I'll see you guys when Trench hits. Looking forward to that reaction, Brad.